Welcome to African Hearts for Peace, where Africa speaks for itself, where truth is unchained, and where a new era of strength and self reliance begins. I am Abebe, and I am here to challenge everything you have been told about Africa's place in the world. For too long, we have been conditioned to believe that progress comes from the hands of foreign powers, that our future depends on aid, and that we must always look outside our solution for solution. That ends now. African Hearts for Peace is here to break the chains of dependency, expose the truth about global influences in Africa, and ignite the spirit of self-reliance and unity. We will ask the hard questions. Has foreign aid truly helped Africa, or has it kept us weak? Why do African leaders turn to global superpowers instead of their own people? Can Africa rise without begging for assistance? What is stopping Africa from claiming its rightful place as a global powerhouse? This is a space for those who dare to think differently, those who refuse to be silenced, those who know what Africa's destiny must be written by Africans, not dictated by outsiders. Through powerful discussions, through provoking narratives, and solution driven dialogue, African Hearts for Peace will challenge the status quo and bringing together the voice of Africa's thinkers, builders, and change makers. To every African watching, this is your time. This is your call. This is your moment. Please subscribe, engage, and most importantly, take action. African Hearts for Peace, the future is ours to claim. Let's begin. Breaking free. Africa's crossroads. Aid or independence. Introduction. For decades, Africa has been caught in a web of foreign aid. Money flows in, projects are funded, but where does it all lead? Has any truly developed Africa, or has it kept the continent in cycle of dependency? Today, we stand at a crossroads. The US government has decided to pull USAID out of Africa. For some, this is a crisis. For others, it is a long overdue wake-up call. But what if this is the greatest opportunity Africa has had in modern history? What if aid has been a comfortable chain keeping Africa from standing on its own? This is not a time to panic. This is a time for action, a time to reclaim sovereignty, a time for Africa to look within itself and finally break free from the grip of dependency. Chapter 1. The Illusion of Aid. Foreign aid has been sold as a solution to Africa's problems. Food security, healthcare infrastructure. Yes, aid has supported these areas, but here is the hard truth. After trillions of dollars in aid over the decades, why is Africa still struggling? If aid truly helped, shouldn't Africa be self-sufficient by now? Shouldn't poverty and hunger be things of the past? Or is it possible that aid has been designed not to help Africa rise, but to keep it under control? With it, there comes a lot of garbages. Even democracy is not working in Africa. Think about this. How many African leaders have used foreign aid to build their nations instead of filling offshore bank accounts? How many projects funded by aid actually lead to long-term development rather than short-term relief? Now that USAID is leaving, African leaders have a choice. Will they finally take responsibility and invest in their own people, or will they turn to another foreign power to keep the cycle of dependency alive? Will they sell land for the Arabs, the Chinese, name it, or any other neo-colonialist? Chapter 2: Africa's Real Truth. Real wealth is not aid, it's its people. Africa is rich, not because of foreign aid, but because of its people and natural resources. Yet, the wealth of the continent is often stolen, extracted, and exported while Africans remain poor. What if African nations started processing their own raw materials instead of exporting them cheaply to foreign markets? What if African governments invested in local manufacturing instead of waiting for donations? What if African youth took a charge building their own future instead of looking for a way out? Here is a question for every African listening. Why should the continent that leads the world still rely on handouts to feed itself? This is the time for Africa to turn inward. The energy, the intelligence, the innovation, everything needed to succeed is already here. The only thing missing is the will to act. In chapter 3, the trap of looking to other superpowers. Some leaders may see USAID's exit as a chance to turn to new foreign powers: China, Russia, the Gulf states, or the European Union. But let's be clear, switching masters is not liberation. Will Africa trade one foreign dependency for another, or will it finally stand on its own feet? China will build roads, but who controls them? Russia will offer security, but at what price? The Gulf state will invest, but who owns the land? African leaders must resist the temptation of easy money. Instead of turning to new global powers for handouts, they must invest in African industries, African agriculture, African education, and African infrastructure without surrendering control. And chapter 4 is a call to action. The future is ours to build. This is a defining moment. Africa will not collapse without USAID. It will either rise or be swallowed by new exploiters. To every African listening, what role will you play? Will you demand accountability from your leaders? Will you push for real investment in your country? Will you choose to build instead of waiting for help? To African leaders, this is your test. Will you lead with vision, or will you sell Africa's future for short-term gain? Will you let history remember you as the ones who liberated Africa, or as the ones who lost its greatest chance? The world is watching, but more importantly, Africa is watching itself. Now is the time to rise. Now is the time to build. Now is the time to break free. The future belongs to those who dare to claim it. Will Africa claim its own destiny? That's a question we leave you today. Africa, the time has come to face reality and build our future.
to the people of Africa, to the youth, to the elders, to the mothers and fathers, the time has come to speak the truth. The foreign aid that has shaped our economies, our governments, and our very way of life is disappearing. USAID is withdrawing. The so-called assistance we relied on is fading, leaving us exposed to the reality we should have confronted long ago. I am Abebe, and I am here to challenge everything you have been told about Africa's place in the world. Far too long, we have been conditioned to believe that progress comes from the hands of foreign powers, that our future depends on aid, and that we must always look outside for solutions. That ends now. We are not here to sugarcoat the truth. Yes, hunger is coming. Yes, many will suffer. But we must ask, was this not coming anyway? The corrupt governments that led us to this moment, what have they truly built for us? Have they secured food for our children? Have they protected our health, our lands, our resources? Or have they filled their pockets while the people grow weaker? To the corrupt politicians who cling to power, step aside. Let peace flourish. You have sold the land to the highest bidder. You have traded the future of Africa for luxury and false prestige. To the weak, the greedy, the power-hungry politicians who have long clung to positions they never deserved, this message is for you. You who are only concerned with your own wealth, your power, your status. You who live for the applause of your own echo chambers, for the comfort of your long speeches and empty promises. You who have built nothing but an empire of deceit, while the people starve and the nation crumbles beneath your feet. Let me be clear, this is not your time anymore. The clock has run out on your leadership. Your failure to act, your greed, your selfishness, your hunger for power, it's all been exposed. And now your hold on the nation is slipping. The people you think follow you will no longer turn a blind eye. The economy is collapsing. Tyranny is rising. And your rhetoric, your promises, your failed democracy, it won't save you now. You should know this. The people see through you. They know you are unfit to lead. They know that while you sit in comfort, they suffer. They know that your so-called leadership has only brought them hardship. The name democracy is not working in Africa. You are weak. You are not the leaders we need. You are not the future of Africa. So step aside. Acknowledge your weaknesses. Take a seat and listen. If you think the people will continue to tolerate your incompetence, you are mistaken. History will judge you harshly, and the same people you believe follow you will soon turn their backs. What will you do then? Will you stand in defiance as everything crumbles? Or will you finally step aside and make room for those with the courage, the vision, the integrity to lead? Ask yourselves, deep down, the hard questions. Why do you cling to power when the people you serve are suffering? Why do you keep talking about change without ever delivering it? Why are you willing to sacrifice the future of Africa for your own fleet gain? Your empire of lies is collapsing. The people know they deserve better, and they will not stand idly by while you continue to destroy their futures. So take a seat, recognize your limitations, and make way for the leaders who truly have the merit, the vision, and the will to lead Africa into a brighter future. Your time is up. The era of your deceit is ending. The people are awake, and they are no longer fooled. This is your chance. Step aside now or be left behind. To the military, the soldiers who are meant to guard our nations, protect our borders, and preserve our sovereignty, what's your role in this unfolding story? In every corner of Africa, you stand as guardians of the people, defenders of the land. But do you truly protect? Or do you merely serve the whims of those in power? You, the men and women in uniform, entrusted with the sacred duty of defense, ask yourselves, what are you truly fighting for? Is it for the good of the nation, for the protection of our people, or are you simply pawns in a larger game, a game of power and corruption that has turned our continent apart? You give your life for that? When you raise your weapons, do you defend your country, or do you further the division that plugs it? When you stand in battle, do you fight for peace or for tyranny? History will judge you too, not by the strength of your guns, but by the strength of your values. It's not too late to change course. Ask yourselves, whose sides are you really on? To the warring factions, to those who lead and those who follow, let me ask you this. Why do you continue the cycle of violence? What is it that you truly seek? Power? Revenge? Or something deeper? How many more lives will you take? How many more homes will you destroy? Is this the legacy you want to leave? You may claim that your cause is just, that your fighting is noble, but look around you. Look at the cost. The shattered communities, the lost families, the orphaned children, the towns reduced to rubble. This is really of your war? You might tell yourselves that the end justifies the means. But what will you achieve in the end? Will your victory be a land filled with ruins? A country divided forever? When the dust settles, when the blood stops flowing, what will you have won? You cannot build a nation on the blood of its people. You cannot create peace from the ashes of war. The power you seek will slip through your fingers if the people do not stand with you. So I ask you again, what are you fighting for? Is it for your own gain or for the future of Africa? The future of Africa does not lie in your war. The choice is in your hands. The military and the warring factions, you have the power to shape Africa's future. But the question remains, how will you shape it? Will you choose to be the architects of division, or will you step up as the builders of unity? You have the power to choose. Will you become heroes remembered for your courage and wisdom? Or will you be remembered as the ones who left Africa fall into chaos? The people of Africa are waiting. The world is watching. The time to choose is now. Africa is watching you. Make the right choice.